Good evening, everybody. Everything new under the sun. I'd like to talk about the future being here and the violence that the Bible speaks of in the last days. Now, I have pillars and arrows and all these things that I see in the Bible as leading to and being part and parcel of the last days. Interesting, you see the Tytler cycle in history there in the top right corner. And this is the circle of nations. You go from bondage, and then you grow faith, and then out of faith you have courage, and you stand up to governments, to whoever is controlling you, whoever you were in bondage to, and then you have liberty, and from liberty comes abundance because you're working hard. And then after a while, generations, people start getting selfish. They're just used to having abundance, and they just become selfish. They're just taking everything, me, everything me. They're not thinking about liberty or spiritual faith anymore. Then you come around up the left-hand side up to complacency. You become complacent. You don't realize what you got you there, and you don't realize that what you have is very fragile. The style of life you have is very fragile. And you go to apathy. You become apathetic about things. You don't care about things anymore. And all of a sudden, you're dependent. You get into this cycle of being dependent on the government, for example, like minimum monthly wage, employment insurance, subsidies, tax refunds. You get used to all these. You just get dependent on them. And that means you're back under bondage because you're owing to somebody else. You're relying on somebody else for your liberty, for your safety, for your freedom, for your money, for your food, for your shelter. And so this is a cycle of nations. And again, you can guess where we are on that. I think we're independence. I believe we're in the dependent stage. Everybody is dependent on the government for handouts, for money, for helicopter money, for money to get through the pandemic and get your business through the pandemic. And so there's bondage there. You're in bondage to the government. The government owns you, and certainly, what are we in bondage to? How many put your hands up in the air who have a house and a mortgage? You're in bondage. You're owing to a bank, and I am included in that. That's just our lifestyle. That's what we've grown up with. You just go out and you get a mortgage. You owe $100, $200, $300, $400,000 on a house. That's just what people do. That's what you do. That's what is expected of you. And so we all do that, but it means we're all in bondage. We're all owing somebody something, and we're in bondage to them in some amount or another. And we are that way to the government. The government now controls everything. They control our safety. It's getting close to where they control the roofs over our head because they're paying for it, or helping us pay for it, or giving us handouts to get through all the lockdowns that they're imposing, etc. So the Tytler cycle in history, go Google that. I think it's very interesting to apply that to our life and times now. See where we are and where we will be going to. We will be going to spiritual faith. But not before the Lord returns. There's going to be a lot of trouble. We have to go through that period of absolute bondage. What are they doing in Australia? They're shipping everybody who has tested positive for COVID to internment camps, and not only that, but they're taking all the contacts, even if they're not positive for COVID. They're putting all the contacts as well in the COVID camps. It's incredible. You talk about bondage. And what are the people in Australia doing? I don't know. I think they're all going along with it. I think they like it. I think they're happy with it. I think they trust their government not to do anything crazy. But my goodness, how far do you have to go until the government sees that they have all the power, and then you get a bad leader in there and he just takes all the power to him? Anyways, that's not what this video was going to be about. So you have all these arrows. You have this pandemic. You have economic collapse, which was basically triggered, and we're being held afloat by lots of free money from the Federal Reserve, from the central banks, from the Bank of Canada, as an example, in Canada. You have lots of job losses. How many businesses? I think 1 million businesses in the U.S. have closed because of the government shutdowns. The government did this. Not you or me. The government did this. Now, they're just trying to save lives. Their whole goal, they don't care about anything. They don't care about the economy. All they want to do is limit the number of deaths because that's what they think their responsibility is. That's all they can do. They can't solve the pandemic. They just want to limit deaths. So that's what they're doing, but it's causing job losses. It's causing supply chain lockups. Now there's, famine and starvation will be the next thing. You have the shipping routes in the California ports are all jammed up. Supply chain there is jammed up. And then what's this latest thing that happened in Vancouver? Vancouver got cut off from the rest of Canada by mudslides. All roads in and out, including railways, were cut off due to mudslides in atmospheric rivers. And that means the ports in Vancouver can't transfer goods from China over here to Central or Eastern Canada, nor can we send anything out. It's all blocked. The supply chain is completely severed in Canada when you think of it that way from the ports in Vancouver. So the supply chain, and it's causing shortages. There's runs on food in BC, and that's going to come on down the line. You talk about food inflation. There's stories about, your turkey is for Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, Americans. Your turkey is going to cost, 14% more or whatever it is. And then you have the violence. The love of many grows cold. Then you have government control. And these aren't necessarily in the correct order, but I think we've had government control for a little while now. And then we work our way to the government has control. Everybody's used to it. Everybody's conditioned for it. Everybody's now accepting of it. This is what they've had to deal with for the last 2 years. And then we have a rollout of the mark of the beast because the whole world needs together. We all need the same vaccine passport. So let's get this, maybe it's a chip, implant, whatever, and let's put it on our right hands or foreheads all around the world, everybody in the world, so that we're all on the same page. We can control everything worldwide, and we'll all be safer. And then the politicians will be able to say, look how many lives we're saving. We have all this information, and now we can control things and stop pandemics. You know what? We can't have another pandemic go around the world like this because it forces us to lock down the public. So we can't have any of that anymore. So we need to track everybody. And when the next pandemic comes, as an example, we're going to lock down people very quick, and we'll know exactly where people are going for contact tracing because we'll be able to track them in their right hand or forehead. We'll know exactly who they are, where they've been, and who their contacts are, right? So it just makes sense from a eschatological point of view, an escalation point of view in terms of what the politicians and technology, where technology is going. Now here's a chart you've seen before. Oh, what I did want to read is that bottom verse there, out of Matthew 24. And because iniquity shall abound, so because sin abounds, because sin is everywhere, and Satan's going full bore. This is his last gasp, if you will. He is trying to kill as many people as possible in this world. It doesn't matter how. He just wants to take out as many humans as possible because they're God's creations, and he hates God and he hates God's creations. He hates you. He hates me. And so sin is abounding and everywhere, and he's pushing it, and all the demons are pushing it. And because of that, the love of many is waxing cold. People don't love each other anymore. Maybe they're too scared, to go greet their neighbors and have their neighbors over for dinner because COVID, right? It's been a little while since we had our neighbors over because everybody's a little bit worried about COVID. No one knows if it's polite to ask someone over, and because that person might be afraid and they might feel guilty that they're going to say no. And so there's a lack of people getting together. Just relationships are falling down. There's no interaction anymore because people are scared. People are afraid for their lives because they don't have eternal life. They don't know Jesus Christ. They don't realize there's something bigger and better, and that, we're going to die in this life, but something better is coming. They don't realize that. They don't have that joy and that hope. And so they don't want to die. They want to get as long as life on this earth in this world as they can. But in the meantime, they're going to lock themselves down. And so the love of many was waxing cold. And violence is going to increase in the last days, I believe, because of this. Remember, it says, they shall deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. Persecution is coming. There was an article that a family member of mine posted about a pastor in Finland who is on trial, who was arrested and is on trial because they posted images of Bible verses, straight up Bible verses about marriage, biblical marriage, man and a woman, and the government considers it's hate speech, and he's on trial. He could go to jail for hate speech because he posted images and verses from the Bible. That's in Finland, a quote unquote Western country. That's where we're going real quickly. Pay attention. Real soon, we are going to fall into hardships. We're going to lose our houses. We're going to lose all our goods, and maybe it's a good thing to have that taken away, but it's going to hurt. It's not going to be what we want. A lot of Christians are going to say, no, I like all my stuff. I just want to go along. I just want to be at peace with everybody. I don't want to cause any trouble, so I'm not going to share my faith with anybody. And that's not a good thing. Even on Facebook, I find on my local Facebook, of course, there's not very many people who are thumbing up Bible verses and that sort of thing. It's not cool in this day and age to say that. And in fact, people take offense to it. The Bible is offensive to those that don't understand it, to those that are perishing. It's foolishness. And they take offense, and they will unfriend you. I want to get to this article here. It's about violence and civil unrest in the last days. Let's go up to my timeline of the return of the Lord. I moved my arrows ahead. I don't know exactly. I've always said I don't know exactly where these are, but I think we're very close to that 7-year period. I don't know exactly when it starts, but the Jubilee year is from September 2021 to September 2022. So it could be during that time anywhere. So the pink arrow is we are here, end of 2021. And then the top red arrow above the pink arrow, that's the economic collapse, the social collapse, civil unrest, antichrist, and peace deal. So is there any indication of that? Well, you talk about social collapse, you talk about all the calamities, the volcanoes going off. In Vancouver, people scrambling to get food because the weather event took out all the roads in and out of Vancouver. You have a whole city there that is going to be in trouble, and actually the army is on the ground there attempting to help get them back going. But you have all these things. But then also in California, one of the most liberal states in the U.S., if not the most liberal state in the U.S., the most godless, if you will, state, at least in terms of the government. And they kind of encourage looting because they don't want to arrest anybody. If it's a misdemeanor or whatever, under $1,000, whatever the limit is, they don't want to bother the police with having to go and arrest shoplifters. So what are people doing? Well, they're shoplifting because they can get away with it because they know the police aren't going to come get them. Let's turn that off and look at this. This is the economiccollapseblog.com. The future is here, and it will be filled with endless looting, rioting, and civil unrest. Our civilization is crumbling in front of our eyes. We have become accustomed to soaring murder rates, mass shootings, and mass running over people with cars. If you've watched the recent news, there was a black man in dreadlocks who, where is it now? Not New Hampshire. I can't think of it. But anyways, rode through a parade with a car. I think he killed 5 people, charged with murder. This is what's going to happen more and more in these last days. Mass shootings, extreme degeneracy throughout the entire entertainment industry. Violent rioting. Have you heard of violent riots? Maybe related to the whole Rittenhouse situation, right? Have you seen the riots there? And his life is destroyed. To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if someone attempted to take him out after the fact and figure out, because I'm sure everybody knows where he lives now. His life is in danger, so he's one to pray for. Guilty or not, his life is done now. It goes on to a certain extent. A lot of these seem normal. This is the real problem, that a lot of this seems normal to us right now. The lockdowns, the face masks, the mandates. This seems normal, but it's not normal. Remember, 2 years ago, everything was awesome. Everything was awesome as it was for the 50 years prior to it. There was nothing special going on in the Western world. And now we are being shaken out of our seats. And there's no turning back. There's no looking back. He says, Michael Schneider says, if you think I'm being overly dramatic, just consider what happened in Northern California. A mob of 80 thieves wearing ski masks, armed with crowbars, suddenly descended on a Nordstrom store. They ransacked it in just minutes. Let's see if I can pull this one up. So here's a picture, a link from it, showing people ransacking. I guess this is an ad. I'm not going to show it. I thought there was an image there somewhere. Anyways, this is probably not. Oh, this is the Nordstrom store. Okay, but they won't show the actual riot wherever that is. Anyways, you get the point. So Nordstrom. So you can Google that if you want to see the images of it. It says the robbery was over within minutes, and they streamed out of Nordstrom into dozens of cars. This was a completely organized crime event. And police, got there as quick as they could. They injured some store workers there. But this is what's happening in the last days. This is going to increase. It says this sort of organized crime in California in a ritzy neighborhood, going into a ritzy store. And the police, of course, are all defunded because that's the cool thing to do. They don't have enough resources now. And so these gangs are going in and doing things in daylight, wide open daylight in California. One of the most liberal states, and they think everything's awesome there. But there you go. In Portland, so this was the rioters related to Rittenhouse. 150 rioters started fires and smashed things up following Kyle Rittenhouse. Now, are those people really protesting the Rittenhouse verdict, or are they just getting in on the quote-unquote fun and causing trouble? At one point, about a dozen police officers were forced back into a garage by an extremely unruly mob. So the mobs are getting so big at these riots that they're actually overtaking the police. Now this is anarchy. Video captured in the moment protesters in Portland cornered police in a garage during riots over Kyle Rittenhouse verdict. The footage shows a crowd of angry protesters aggressively yelling at police dressed in full riot gear. The group of nearly a dozen officers are seen backing up into a garage. The door of the garage slowly closes as the protesters continue to confront the police, with one demonstrator even trying to push the garage door open. It goes on here. Violent protests have broken out against the mandates in Europe about all the requirements. It's now compulsory in where is it? Spain, Austria. Demonstrators angry about the new measures in Austria, and this is just a COVID jab. This is not the mark of the beast. A lot of us may get this at some point because we don't have a choice. It's unfortunate. It's not. I don't believe it's legal. It's certainly against our charter rights in Canada. Outside of the fact that we're in emergency situation right now, and we have been for 2 years or nearly 2 years. Nonetheless, nothing you and I can do about it. This isn't mark of the beast, so we may be forced into it. But this is the trouble in the world, and this is coming upon us. And what will the government do after they force us all into this? And we've gotten used to this. They'll go on to the next thing, which I suspect is going to be mark of the beast. So pay attention to that. In Belgium, 40,000 protesters descended upon the capital. Police fired water cannons and tear gas. Some protesters were seen throwing projectiles at riot police. In the Netherlands, violence was even worse. At one point, officers opened fire on a group of rampaging rioters. There's riots. There's violence throughout the world. A lot of it because of these mandates. Others because the Rittenhouse verdict, and others just because all the defund police stuff that happened over the last year and a half, and police departments can't control the people anymore, and the people are going nuts. Yeah, we're pent up, and we're in lockdowns and mandates, and people are not happy. People are losing love for each other. They're losing patience. They're losing calm. And I believe the governments are a lot of the cause of a lot of this stuff, but also Satan is certainly stirring people up. He wants people to fight each other and to kill each other. This is what's happening in the last days. So pay attention. I think it's time to get prepared. I think at some point, all of our preparations won't matter. At some point, we'll just need to have faith in God, put our trust in God, and know that His plan for our life may be to die at some point, to die of starvation, to die of whatever may come along. And that may be your path in life. I don't know. How many Christians in the world have died for their faith? Many, many of them. And so it would be wrong to think that we will escape all that. We will escape God's wrath. But will we escape persecution from the world persecuting us? We may not. So you need to be prepared in your heart for that at the end of the day. You can't prepare enough for everything. We just don't know. We're in different places, situations, countries, locales, and we have different resources and abilities and places to get to or to escape to, if you will. And some of us are just going to have to face the music, as they say. It's something sobering, something to be prepared for in these last days. And we're counting down the minutes now, I think, until the 7-year period starts, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Some people say they're riding. And I'm starting to think maybe there is a good way to look at that. Maybe there's kind of a dual fulfillment there where they're kind of slowly coming into play and maybe have been playing out. And then all at once they'll also come to play as well in terms of famines. And because certainly these things don't just happen immediately. They take time to evolve into the situation that they evolve into, be that because of lockdowns and then supply chain disruptions, all leading up to the famine spoken of in the seals in Revelation 6. So all these things, if the seals themselves haven't been broken, certainly the lead up to them is, I think, underway. And I think it's arguable to that effect. All right, folks, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for watching. Be prepared and make sure you know the Lord Jesus Christ as your Savior. He died on a cross and rose again 2,000 years ago for my sin and your sin. He's coming back soon to deal with the world, to deal with sin in the world. And there's going to be fireworks. And it's not going to be necessarily a happy time. It's not really going to be a happy time for anybody other than the Christians who know that ultimately at the end of the day, even though their hard times are upon us, that the Lord will fix it all. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.